You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options. Facebook.com/TheOptionsInsider or via questions at TheOptionsInsider.com.
Join us now for the expert source for inside information on the options markets. It's time for Options Insider Radio with your host, Mark Longo.
And welcome back to the Options Insider Network. This is Mark Sebastian coming to you from the Chicago Board Options Exchange Risk Management Conference. I'm joined by Berlinda Liu, Director of R&D at S&P Dow Jones Indexes. And I've just got done listening to her give a fascinating presentation as a part of the volatility primer. And you said something really interesting involving why different volatility strategies have maybe had a rough 2013 and 2014. Explain, the idea of parallel versus twisting moves in volatility futures.
Absolutely. Well, this term structure, VIX term structure is not, conceptually, not much different from term structure in other futures markets, whether it's fixed income or commodities. So parallel shift means all the futures have the price move up or down. And a twist means you see a curvature change. That means some futures contracts moves more than others. So you may see the curve shift from upward sloping to downward sloping, or some parts are upward sloping or some parts are downward sloping. That's all included in the curvature change.
Now, do you guys have any, in your research, have you seen any reasons for kind of this this move toward parallel shifts in the curve versus, contango and backwardation flipping back and forth over the last, 12 to 24 months?
I think we see a huge parallel shift in the later part of 2014, last year. The difference of the current event is people see risk from like Russia, from oil, from emerging markets, but all those events do not have a deadline. No one knows when it will happen. Is it 6 months away, 1 month away, 1 year away? So in this case, we don't see a VIX term structure curvature change. Instead, the whole VIX futures shifted upward.
So parallel shifts are you would, just to kind of summarize, parallel shifts you think are more associated with a perception of a risk that maybe doesn't have a deadline or a timeline, and a curvature change may be more associated with something like, the fiscal cliff of a few years back or something along those lines?
I think that's a fair way to put it. Usually they happen together. For example, back in 2011, when the U.S. Treasury got downgraded, we see both a shift, like the VIX level shift up, all the futures prices increase, but we also see a curvature change. So the term structure flip from contango to backwardation.
Now, discuss with me the index that you were discussing in the primer. I thought it was a fascinating index. It's very interesting. Do you mind giving a 2-minute discussion on what that index actually is? And
absolutely. The index I mentioned is called S&P 500 VEQTOR Switch Index. And in this index, the framework is risk control. So basically, if we have a target risk of 10% on the equity component, so if S&P 500 has a realized vol of 15%, then we allocate 2/3 to 500, and the remaining 1/3 will go to a vol component, VIX futures. But whether the VIX futures is long or short is driven by the curvature of term structure. So if the curvature is concave or contango, that may be a more familiar word for most people, then the vol component will be short. And if the curvature is in convex or in backwardation, then we will long VIX.
So if I were going to kind of flip this and convert it into like a simple option strategy, so would you say that one might make parallels to when the VIX futures are in contango, it's going to act like a long strategy with maybe an option income strategy overlay, versus when they're in backwardation, it's like a long strategy with a protective put type of strategy, a hedge strategy.
Yeah, that's a fair way to put it. When it's in contango, you care more about income. So here, you may use options to create income, or you may use VIX futures to collect roll yield.
Now, is this going to be put out as an ETP or an ETF, or is it meant as a benchmark index, and you're hoping that the managers and fund people use that as something to benchmark themselves against?
Right now, we actually have a ETP based on this index that's issued by UBS, and I think the ticker is VEQTS.
So it's VEQTS that this is trying. So that's interesting. So it's SPY kind of flipped with a XIV versus VXX component almost, as I think about it. In a similar way. Neat. Now, is there anything else interesting in the pipeline that you're allowed to discuss, or anything that is in your eye that you want to look at? Let's just say.
I think one thing we want to look at is whether we want to or able to incorporate a parallel shift in this structure. Because right now it's just a curvature switch, and it does not work all the time, but absolutely for most of the time. But we still want to see whether there is a way to improve it.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you being here with me again. This is Berlinda Liu, Director of R&D at S&P 500 Dow Jones, or not S&P, Standard & Poor's Dow Jones Indexes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.